Coming up in today's show, we've got more details about the E3 digital event. Pac-Man 99 is Nintendo's newest battle royale, and we've been playing a lot of Outriders. What's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the What's Good Games podcast, your source for video game news, commentary, analysis, and funny stuff every Friday. I'm one of your hosts, Andrea Renee, joined by Miss Christine Steimer.
Hello.
And welcome back to the show, Miss Riana Manuel.
Thanks for having me back. I'm excited. I missed y'all.
We miss you too. It's so good to have you back on the show. You guys may notice that one Brittany Brombacher is missing, and that is because she is taking a personal week to get her home in order after her big remodel, which she talked about on the Patreon stream. And we are glad that Ree could step in and fill her spot because we played some Outriders together, and we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. But also, we just miss having you on the show, Ree.
I'm glad we could make this work. I love coming back whenever I can, and I'll always try to fit What's Good Games in because y'all are the homies, and I love talking about games with you.
Thanks! And for everybody who is planning to join us on Monday, April 12th for our anniversary stream, Ree's going to be making a cameo. She won't be on for long because, of course, you know, she's got her big girl job at G4, which, by the way, how's everything over there going? You guys have been posting a lot on social media lately.
Yeah, we've been posting a lot, making some changes. You know, right now we're just trying stuff out, you know, until we can get into a studio with COVID-safe precautions and people are vaccinated and we're able to film things regularly. We're testing. So, you know, if you catch any of our content, let us know what you think about it. And we're definitely listening to any and all feedback. So really appreciate everybody's comments.
I love it. Yeah, I saw the announcement that Austin Creed is going to be doing a show with WWE and G4, of course, WWE Superstar, I should say.
The full title.
So many people shooting their shot, myself included, because you guys were like, who wants to go with Austin? And everybody on the internet raised their hand.
I mean, why wouldn't they, right? Like, it sounds like a dream
He's
job
great.
to co-host
Yeah,
with him.
no, it's awesome for sure. But we, of course, are your source for video game news, commentary, analysis, and funny stuff. And that means that we are also brought to you by patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. And this month's March Patreon producers are Chewy's Godson, Alex Rigopulos, Faris Attieh, Justin Foshee, Marcus Ian Brown, DaNanoBiologist Mohammed Mohammed, and Punkdefied. And welcome to our Patreon community, Nicholas Truax, Brent Muse, Erskine James, Fabian Aw, and Tariq Solomon. Thank you so much for joining our awesome crew at patreon.com/whatsgoodgames, where you can be part of the show by submitting your questions. And of course, you can get the show ad-free. But good news, today there's no ads. That's right. We're just taking a break from sponsorship this week, everybody. But we're not taking a break from asking you to give us a few moments of your time by leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. We always promote the Patreon because we love being independently financed by you guys, the people who listen to the show, but we know that not everybody can toss a few bucks our way, but hopefully you can toss a few minutes of your time. Like one B.I. Scott I, who wrote, "Subscribe for Scrooge McDucking theories." A little excerpt from Scott's review reads, "Y'all are great, and I love the experience, difference in opinions, and especially when it goes off the rails. Thank you for burning a horrifying image of Scrooge McDuck removing foil inside their duck bill in my head."
You know, I didn't think about it from the duck bill perspective. And maybe I should have. I was thinking more of a human type mouth.
Yes.
Oh, God.
That's fine. Everything's
Not
fine.
sure that's
It's okay.
much better, but okay.
You know, I'm going to stop talking now.
Don't give Scott any more fuel for his terrible fire inside of his head that is currently burning, apparently. But thank you for the review, and thank you for taking the time to leave a 5-star review. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and just jump into the news because we've got some good ones today. And we're going to kick things off with E3 2021. So last week we talked to you about, you know, the potential rumors about what was going on. Then, of course, the ESA came out and made some statements. So I have a little write-up here from Eurogamer that says that E3 2021 will indeed be a free online-only event the ESA has confirmed. Following reports that E3 would be returning as a digital event, the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, has now officially confirmed it will be online only and it will be free to watch. So you might have seen some reports and people like myself and a bunch of others kind of commenting on the idea of a paywall being included. And the ESA quickly came out to say, no, we are not making this a pay-per-view event. It will be free for people to watch. It's going to be taking place the 12th to the 15th this June, and it's going to return as a reimagined all-virtual event, allowing developers to showcase their latest games and news. The ESA will be working with media partners globally to help amplify and make this content available to everyone for free. Quote from CEO Stanley Pierre-Louis, "We are evolving this year's E3 into a more inclusive event, but we'll still look to excite the fans with major reveals and insider opportunities that make this event the indispensable center stage for video games." The show has been backed by Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two Interactive, Warner Bros., and Koch Media, and that's a pretty solid lineup, but the ESA promises there's still more to come. But it is worth noting that Sony appears to once again be sitting this year out, suggesting that they may be skipping the show altogether. So, ladies, what do you think about Digital E3 2021?
I mean, it sounds great to have everything sort of collated into one presentation. Obviously, minus Sony, minus Nintendo. Probably they'll still do some kind of direct later in the summer, or hopefully they'll do something later in the summer as well. But I can't help but think we're still going to get so many mini presentations or like indie showcases or, exclusives from different publishers and developers. And we're going to have another summer like 2020 where things are so spread out and there's so much to cover for weeks and weeks and weeks in a row. And that caused a lot of burnout for folks like What's Good Games. And I know it caused a lot of burnout on the marketing side for when I was at Xbox, trying to make sure that we're keeping hype up and maintaining the interest over months at a time without a centralized time and place to really spend all the money, all the focus. And I'm worried that even with this event reaching more people, being free and completely inclusive and accessible, we're still going to have a situation like the summer of 2020 where there's just too many announcements, too many individual presentations.
God, I hope not. I hope we've learned the lessons of 2020.
Yeah. I'm with you. We also got the confirmation from Jeff Keighley that the Summer of Games, or Summer Game Fest, I should say, is returning, but it's going to be a little bit more concise this year. I'm with you, Ree, that I think that E3 coming back is great, but last year it was a hot mess of streams. Too many streams across too many months. It was just a lot. And I'm hoping that E3 being when it is, and with all of the major publishers, with the exception of Sony, it sounds like, saying, hey, we're on board. I think that that's a good thing, especially having Nintendo and Xbox come out really clearly and say, we're excited to be part of Digital E3 this year. I think that's great. Having people like Capcom, Ubisoft, Take-Two Interactive being involved is great. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get some news on what's going on with the next GTA. Who knows? Warner Brothers obviously has a lot of games on their slate too this year. And then, Koch Media, which I believe is under the giant umbrella of, what is that? Is that Embracer Group? Has, definitely a lot of stuff going on as well. So, but Steimer, are you excited? E3 2021?
Yay!
The smallest yay ever.
I mean, I agree with what both of you have been saying, and that this sounds great on paper. I just hope that it doesn't, morph into the monster that last year became. I hope we are keeping things more concise. I hope we are allowing, not only the journalists in the industry, but just the consumers in the industry to have a bit more focus and not have to try and pay attention every single day for an entire summer. That's just bonkers. Don't do that to people.
Yeah, and E3, I mean, I know originally was a trade show, right? It's an industry event. It's meant for people to make connections, talk pitches for collaborations for years and years of development down the line. And that obviously doesn't happen the same way digitally. Sure, you can have breakout rooms, you can have smaller sessions or panels, but there's really, there's no way to recreate what it's like to walk down the hall, see somebody you meant to catch up with, and then you end up collaborating a couple months later. And it's so hard to explain that to folks who haven't been to an industry event or like an annual event where, you know, those deals are made, those conversations take place, but there really is no other space for it. Maybe GDC would be the closest thing, but it doesn't include, you know, a lot of publishers, a lot of devs, since it's definitely more tech focused.
Typically, I feel like more expensive. To attend.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's no replacing that in-person element, but I think they're doing the right thing because it's so early in June. Like we saw ReedPop cancel PAX East. I think keeping it digital only is absolutely the way to go, because while we are seeing, you know, a big uptick in people getting vaccinated in the United States as a country really being aggressive about vaccinating adult populations, we're just not ready yet. I mean, this looming fourth wave is happening on the East Coast with infection rates starting to rise again in key states that have, you know, taken away their mask mandates and other things. It's just, it's too many people in a space where, you know, the virus could circulate. And even if you required everybody to have a full vaccination and bring their cards as proof, I still just don't think the publishers would be on board to spend the amount of money they have to spend at E3 for like a smaller footprint. So I think they made the right call, waiting for next year. So we'll see how it all goes.
Absolutely. But hopefully it works for consolidating messaging and communicating when demos are available for people to try, you know, try it today. Like that's always exciting, and the showcases will be wonderful, I'm sure. But yeah, it does still feel like we're going to get overwhelmed this summer. And I hope I'm wrong, honestly.
Well, I think like the one reason why you might be wrong is because the pandemic is just now, I think, catching up to the release cycle, where most things that came out in 2021 were pretty much already like baked. They just needed a little icing on top, a little polish, if you will. But a lot of things that were scheduled for Q1, Q2, Q3 2021 we're seeing getting pushed because they were the ones impacted the most by the work from home situation that a lot of developers found themselves in. So I think that it might not be as busy as you think. And I think that's true. Good for everybody. Let's everybody just take some time to relax and go outside, you know, and see some people once you're fully vaccinated, you know, and keep wearing your mask, y'all. Keep wearing your mask. All right, moving on. Our next story is an interesting one. EA has patented an adaptive difficulty system that adjusts to keep you playing longer. So IGN has the write-up. Electronic Arts has developed this adaptive difficulty system that dynamically adjusts how difficult a game is, but also has revealed that EA's patent application, the system does this with an aim to keep players active for longer periods of time. No surprise there. The patent was filed last October and published at the end of March 2021, describes a system that can perform automatic granular adjustments to a game in order to change the difficulty of the experience. Similar systems have been used by Resident Evil 4 and Left 4 Dead, in which a system monitors player performance and uses the data to inform enemy behavior. However, EA seems to have an additional or perhaps even alternative motive beyond just aiding players to overcome a game's difficulty curve. As outlined in the patent's abstract, the system can review historical user activity data with respect to one or more video games to generate a game retention prediction model. The model then is used to predict how long the user is expected to play for. Using this prediction, the dynamic difficulty system can calibrate the challenge to make sure you play for that duration. AI is getting too smart, everybody. I don't like it. More details on EA's intention for the system is provided in the background section. Here, EA states that software developers typically desire for their software to engage users for as long as possible, of course. The company notes that one of the challenges of the game development design is a game with a difficulty level that is most likely to keep the user engaged. Continuing on, difficulty is a hugely important issue in game design, and the concept of adaptive difficulty is an attractive one. Every player is different and has different requirements when it comes to challenge. However, the description within this EA patent is incredibly developer-publisher focused rather than the emphasis being on the player. It raises questions about what it will do, for instance, when faced with players who only play infrequently or for short durations at a time. Will the difficulty be adjusted to ensure adequate progress is made in that short window, or changed to encourage a user to keep playing longer than their data suggests they normally do? Interesting question. What do you think, ladies?
I have no idea, but I feel like it's sus, and I don't necessarily like it.
It does feel a bit spyy. Like the part that gets me in the write-up here is like looking at experience from other games. Or so it's like, so if I was shitty at Dark Souls, like you're gonna make it harder or easier for me to play Outriders. Like that's the part that obviously there's not two games that would show up in this algorithm, but it does feel a little bit creepy that you're judging me based on one game behavior for another game. But I don't know if it's creepy enough to make me hate it. I might turn it off because I want to give myself the most challenge. That's the kind of player I am. And then dial it back according to what I feel is comfortable. That's sort of the thing that I'm rubbing up against, is like, give me the agency to decide how difficult the game should be. I think player choice is just always the best way to go.
Yeah, I think that's what's kind of interesting about this. I don't know if this is indicating that they would prefer this be used. They think like AI knows best, and making it so you no longer have that agency to be able to adjust it. I'm with you. I prefer games where I have the flexibility to change it on the fly, and it's not really going to punish you in any way, because some days I feel like a challenge and some days I'm tired and I don't. And so I would rather just have the ability to change that. This isn't super clear on exactly how they plan on implementing this, so it's a little hard to say. But I mean, I can't fault them for wanting to engage users for a longer period of time. I just think it's interesting that this is the way that they've chosen to go about it.
I'm with you. I don't think that this inherently is bad. I think adaptive difficulty is an interesting concept, but I agree with you, Ree, that I want the agency to decide for myself, and I'd like the ability to turn it off. But this doesn't sound like something that they would give the player the ability to turn off. Now, to be clear, developers get lots and lots of data from you in the background that you probably don't realize.
Oh, for sure.
So that's not really surprising. Like, it feels maybe at first that it looks a little big brothery, but that's already happening. Like, they're already gathering all that data from you when
You are blissfully unaware.
Correct.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're playing a video game, the dev knows what you're doing and is collecting data on the back end. Now, granted, most of that data is anonymized and, you know, obviously doesn't connect to your profile or anything like that. But sometimes it does, because, like, how do you think they track trophies and things like that, right? So there's a lot of data that does go to the developers to kind of give them an idea of like how things are going and, you know, what features are working and what features are broken, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it's interesting that they're patenting it. I think that makes it difficult for other developers and publishers to potentially work with same kinds of systems. But, you know, EA is just looking out for EA. So that's no shock there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this recently with the Nemesis system, right? They're going for the patent for that, and you know, it's a great system. It's a great idea. They should get something for it. So hopefully they make it accessible if they do end up running it, and hopefully it is an option that we can toggle on or off whenever we want. But we'll see. We'll see what call is made.
I'm just mostly curious to see if this does what they think it'll do.
Yeah, if it works, that'd be interesting.
I think for the right player, it will. I actually think most players probably wouldn't mind this system and probably would enjoy the challenge a system like this might give them, because a lot of gamers love the skill-based challenge that video games give them. I mean, we see that in comments all the time from people when we talk about it, but obviously here at What's Good Games, we're big proponents of baby mode. And so we're like, that's cool if you want a challenge, but I don't.
I mean, I would
Absolutely.
since it's adaptive, I'm assuming this goes both ways. Like it could potentially go lower if you're struggling in an area, which I could see a gamer who doesn't want that getting really upset about, being like, no, I just want to beat the boss to like beat the boss. But if it's like, oh, we think this person's gonna log out soon, maybe we just bump the difficulty down so that they get past this part. I mean, that's another way that it could technically be used. Again, this is just based on the most generic information from this patent, so it's really hard to say, but
I do think
I don't
it's
know.
annoying when games try to hold your hand if you failed just a couple times. I think it's different if you get a game that lets you fail repeatedly, but then when it's been, like 7 or 8 fails, they're like, hey, don't forget there is a hint system if you want it. But some games give you a hint after like your second or third fail. Like,
yeah.
even with Outriders, which we're going to talk about in the next segment, there was a time when I was playing with Joey and the game's like, you can drop the world tier down. And I'm like, yeah, bitch, I know, but we're still trying to get it on this world tier. Leave me alone. I know we're dying.
Yeah, there's definitely a thin line between like condescending and accessibility that we need to make sure we're keeping an eye on with stuff like this for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our next story. Steimer, you want to tell everybody about Pac-Man 99?
I sure do. Guess what, everybody? It's the next Nintendo Switch Online Battle Royale. And this comes to us from our friends at Polygon. So Nintendo has announced Pac-Man 99, the next Battle Royale take on a classic arcade game coming to Nintendo Switch Online. 99 players, as the title suggests, play Pac-Man simultaneously and attempt to be the last Pac person standing. As with other 99 games, you can disrupt your fellow players. Chomping on ghosts will send jammer Pac-Mans to their screens, which will slow them down. Pac-Man 99 also introduced Sleeping Ghosts, a new stationary enemy you can wake to gobble up en masse with a power pellet. Doing so will create dozens of jammer Pac-Mans to fire at your rivals. Selecting players to target works the same as the other 99 games, so you can pick players on the verge of being knocked out or people who have targeted you. Pac-Man 99 joins Tetris 99, is being available at no further cost to Nintendo Switch Online members, and it arrives 1 week from... this is so sad. Arrives a week on from the deletion of Super Mario 35.
Aww.
One classic
Mario.
swapped in for another.
Yeah, Mario is no more, but now you have 99 Pac-Mans.
Rest in peace, King.
I think this is cool. I love Pac-Man. I think the idea of making it a battle royale is very interesting. I haven't gotten a chance to check this out yet, but I love that it's free for Nintendo Online subscribers. They are going to be selling it, I believe, for $29.99 at a later date. But if you've got Nintendo Online, you can get this for free.
Yeah, it's cool. I loved Tetris 99. I'm probably gonna love this. I haven't played Pac-Man in over a decade, so we'll see how rusty I am and how quickly the skills come back. But
Oh, you never
the
got into
99
Championship Edition?
I did not.
Oh, it's so
I
good.
did not. Yeah, I don't know if I'll survive if I'm up against a lot of folks who did, but no, this is great. I love the 99 format. It's super fun, really addictive, nice to drop in and out of games quickly. It's a good little time filler, and there'll probably be a lot of people playing it day one, which is today as of recording. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But this looks awesome to me. And rip Mario.
Rip Mario.
It would be funny if they had the old tip of the hat and there was a little Mario ghost that you eat.
Oh, sad.
Power pellet is a mushroom for like a day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. He's not dead forever though. They just took him off the store for now.
They just were like, you're no longer useful.
Oh no.
Well, maybe we'll get a
must
new
replace
Mario
you.
game announcement in June at E3 from Nintendo, because Doug Bowser was tweeting that he's excited for what
I
Nintendo's
still
going to
can't
announce.
believe that his name is Doug Bowser.
It really
He's
is.
He's lovely,
know.
by the way. He's a great person.
I just don't understand. Like,
We ended up in a weird timeline.
we really did. It doesn't make much sense to me. What are the fucking odds that this child growing up is like, I'm Doug Bowser? And then I wonder if he was like, I will run Nintendo one day. And then he's like, how do I become a CEO? And then he just did it. And then he was like, but now what? Now what do I do?
I mean, It seems like he's figuring it out, I guess.
I mean, more of like, how do you top that? Like, you don't. It's pretty much as good as you get.
I would have loved to seen the look on the HR person's face when Doug Bowser's like CV came across their desk, and they're like, "Wait, is this for real?"
They were probably like, is this just some weird fan that changed their name legally? Because I think that's going in the no pile.
That is actually really funny.
Maybe
Oh,
when
man.
we see Doug Bowser at the next event, or we can get him on the show, we can ask him how his first HR interview at Nintendo went.
They're just sitting there like, okay, so your
So,
name.
You're the bad guy. So how do you feel about that?
Exactly.
The marketing team's like, wait, do we run with this or?
I mean, you gotta, right? You gotta embrace it, because otherwise
you
everyone
feel
will just
about-
make a meme out of you anyway.
Losing in every game. Is that
Oh,
fun for
shit.
you?
I didn't think of it that way. He's definitely the loser in every Mario storyline.
That's actually pretty true. Except
Wow.
in games like Mario Kart, right? Then he can be the winner.
True.
True.
The only game you have a fair shake in is Mario Kart or Mario Party.
Maybe tennis.
Maybe
Yeah,
tennis.
sports,
Yeah.
the sport
The
games.
sporty or the
It's true.
racing kind of games.
Exactly. Well, we will be testing out Pac-Man 99, and we'll give you guys some impressions on a future show. But for now, we're going to talk about one of our bays. That's right. More details on Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Now, I'm not going to go through everything in this story because BioWare had a whopper of a blog that they put up on EA.com where you guys can go to look at all of the gameplay calibrations, they're calling it, for the Legendary Edition, which is coming out on May 14th. But over at Eurogamer, they did write up a little bit of a synopsis for a couple of things. If you're unfamiliar, of course, it bundles all 3 games from the Mass Effect trilogy and the single-player DLC from the original and gives the whole thing a modern-day sheen with support for 4K, HDR, 60 frames per second for PC and consoles like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. But you can also play it, of course, on the OG Xbox One and the original PS4 as well. And I believe you will be able to play those versions in their backwards compatibility modes on Xbox Series X and S and on PS5. But there is no official next-gen version, just as a reminder. So most of the changes focus on Mass Effect 1 because that's the oldest of the 3, including combat, which was originally intended to mimic the randomness of a dice roll and pen and paper stat building. But it's going to be significantly tweaked to increase accuracy and reduce frustration, and it doesn't stop there. The original will also gain a melee button, rebalanced abilities, faster weapon cooldowns, inventory management improvements, and more. BioWare promises specific changes to encounters, enemies, and how players engage in Mass Effect 1, all intended to bring the experience more in line with the sequel and, of course, Mass Effect 3. Squad mates can now be commanded independently, for example, while XP is now rewarded more consistently. I know, thank goodness. Oh, excuse me. Some enemies and boss encounters have been tweaked to be fairer. Additionally, BioWare says the cover has been improved across the trilogy, which is great to hear. Arguably, the most notable improvement to Mass Effect 1, however, comes in the form of changes to the infamously wonky M35 Mako, frequently seen bouncing its way uncontrollably across planets in the original game. The Legendary Edition overhauls the handling and promises a much smoother ride while still being while still being lovable like before. Plus faster shield recharging, new thrusters to help with that awkward terrain, and improved camera controls and more. Now, I tweeted about this and a bunch of people showed up in my feed to be like, but I liked the original Mako controls. And I was like, what?
I mean, I hated it at first, and then I think I watched a video at some point that was like, I'm the Mako. Fuck walls, fuck everything. Like, it was just like bouncing and Goomba stomping on everybody. And I was like, oh. And then I went back and played it like that. And I just leaned into the controls of the Mako and was like, this is actually pretty fun. Like, it is actually very enjoyable to just launch yourself up in the air for no apparent reason. If you're trying to to treat it like a tank, yeah, it was the most frustrating thing in the world because it does not control like that. And the gun is just like fucking everywhere. Like, you're never gonna kill anybody with that gun. You gotta run them
Yeah.
over.
It's true. I'm just really excited to see the way that they've changed some of the boss encounters, and I'm so glad that they've overhauled combat, particularly in Mass Effect 1. Obviously, the Mass Effect trilogy at large has had combat issues across all 3 games because that trilogy is not known for its combat, right? Like, it got better as the games went on, but it's not a game that you look at and go, that combat was stellar.
No.
So
But that's still my favorite one of all of the series. Combat aside, story-wise, I think it was fantastic. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's already the one that I've played the most. I think I played it 6 or 7, possibly 8. I don't remember at this point.
Wow.
Times. And I think that will be the one that I actually play for sure in this legendary. I'll be like, yeah, I'll go back and play 1. I don't know if I'll play 2 or 3 again, but I will definitely
No,
play 1
what?
again.
See, that was
Wow.
2
I love
for me.
1 so much. I love it.
It's a great game. I agree with you that the story in 1 is top tier, but 2 for me is the creme de la creme. I played that 7 times. I played Mass
Oh my
Effect 1
gosh.
3 times, Mass Effect 2 7 times, Mass Effect 3 2 times.
Yeah, I was like 7 or 8 or whatever. Then I think it was just 2, and then it was just 1.
How many times have
Significantly
you
fell
played
off.
Mass Effect Re?
I've played through 2 once, and the other 2 a little bit, a couple hours each. I
That's
bounced
fair.
off hard. You know, you mentioned the combat not being its greatest selling point. That's definitely what turned me off. I was in it for the story and for the romance storylines, especially. But yeah, I found it not super fun to play, and kind of noped out for a little bit. But I'm looking
don't
forward to
blame you.
trying it again.
Yeah, no, like there's been so many people who have commented on, our episodes where we talk about Mass Effect saying, I'm looking forward to my very first playthrough. And that to me,
Yeah.
I think is one of the best things about the Legendary Edition is that there's going to be people who never experienced Mass Effect and getting to do that for the first time. I'm excited to hear what everybody thinks about it since it's so near
Mass
to my
Effect
heart.
party.
Yeah. All right, so let's continue on, shall we? This is kind of an exciting story.
Yes.
So this was actually just announced today. Popular streamer and, of course, esports player Valkyrae steps into a co-ownership position with 100 Thieves. They've expanded their ownership group. This comes directly, I should say, from a press release from 100 Thieves, to include 2 companies of legendary content creators, Rachel Valkyrae Hofstetter and Jack Courage Dunlop. The new ownership structure reflects one of the key values driving 100 Thieves as an organization, built by creators for creators, of course. 100 Thieves infamously founded by one Nadeshot, of course, a very popular streamer and esports player. Valkyrae and Courage are joining the ownership group composed of the founder, Matthew Hogg, which I just mentioned, Drake, media mogul Scooter Braun, and, of course, Cleveland Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert. In their new positions, Valkyrae and Courage will be more involved with the 100 Thieves' broader business strategy, identifying and bringing on new talent, building new programs, and other initiatives. And don't worry, fans, she's still going to be making content, so she's not going behind the scenes or anything crazy like that. Valkyrae put out a statement today saying, I'm so excited to be a co-owner of 100 Thieves and to help write the next chapter for our organization. I was the first female content creator to join 100 Thieves, and I'm proud that I've been a key part of the brand since very early on. It feels natural to continue to work with Matt and Jack in this new capacity and to have even more of an impact. We're looking forward to growing our team and welcoming new creators fans will love. You guys may remember we talked about her back during the Game Awards where she won Content Creator of the Year. Obviously a big step, but she also has a giant audience across all of the social media platforms, and she's currently, I believe, in an exclusive streaming contract with YouTube Gaming after she left
That is
Twitch.
correct. So is Courage.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is great. This is really exciting news. There are so few women in the esports community at large. Obviously, that number grows month over month, but to see somebody at the top of the food chain for a very successful esports group is great news.
Absolutely. Like, loved seeing this announcement. It really lit up my day. I was having a good day anyway, but it was wonderful just seeing, like, oh yes, I'm co-owner of 100 Thieves. I'm like, damn right you are. Like, that's the natural next step. I'm so excited. And I hope we see more moves like this of creators taking over ownership of their spaces, but also women and people of color. Like, this is what we do to change perception, to change empathy, to change inclusiveness, and for people to feel like they can actually achieve what they are fans of, that they can become those creators in the next generation. This is so encouraging. You filled me with so much hope. I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I saw Courage's tweet first, so I just saw his, and I was like, oh, cool, good for him. And then I was kind of like continued scrolling, whatever, and then I saw Ray's, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. I was just like, oh, that, like, I wasn't expecting that. I thought, because I didn't realize they would announce them both at the same time, or that they were both like signing on. But yeah, I agree. Like, it's super awesome that they're not only she was able to be their first female content creator, but now she gets to be a co-owner. Like, go on, girl. Make it.
Yeah, I mean, like to have her up there alongside people like Scooter Braun and Drake is like, that's pretty boss.
That's the highest you can get right
Not
now.
a
For
bad place
content.
to be.
Not bad company to keep. Exactly. No offense, Nate Shot. You're cool too. You've done some really cool stuff. But I mean, like, when you call home, do you go, hey, I'm a co-owners with Drake, like the guy from the State Farm commercial?
Yes,
claim to
that's
fame
his
now.
claim to fame. He's just the State Farm commercial.
I just love that
He's not
commercial so
Jake.
much. It's so funny to me.
It is a great commercial.
It is wonderful, brilliant. Jake and Drake. Oh my god.
State Farm, if you're interested in sponsoring the What's Good Games podcast, just let us know. We'd be happy to workshop some funny ideas for you.
Just saying, we have a Drake too. It's no big deal.
It's true,
I mean,
we
it's
do.
true. It's true. We've got a Drake. It's me. Actually, it's probably, a named producer. He's the Drake in this family. All right, just a couple quick items here. You guys may have seen the MLB and Xbox announced, I believe it was on Friday of last week, that they're bringing MLB The Show 21 to Xbox Game Pass day and date on when it's launching on PlayStation. Now, this was a really big deal. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it last week, but Sony,
Yes, we
clearly
did.
feeling the heat, put out a statement to be like, excuse me, this was MLB's decision, not ours.
As if that needed to be said.
Right, exactly. And I had
Aw.
tweeted that I thought it was a potential to open the door for games being created by Sony to potentially be on Xbox platforms, which I think is hopefully true. For people who aren't aware, Sony San Diego, a first-party studio of Sony Interactive Entertainment, is the studio that creates MLB The Show. And they've been doing so, and it's been a PlayStation exclusive, I believe, since 2006. And it's interesting that at this time they've given some publishing rights to MLB. I think, to me, that indicates that sales have maybe gone down for this game. And it's troubling that if you buy it on PlayStation, you have to pay $70 for it, the platform where it's always lived as an exclusive. But if you've got an Xbox, you can play it for free on Game Pass.
Day
Just
one.
Xbox swooping in and pulling the rug out.
It's definitely
They are
a power
throwing
move.
money at this problem for sure.
I mean, it seems like it's working, like sentiment was all over the internet saying like, oh, okay, I guess I'm playing MLB on Xbox. So, it's definitely throwing money at a problem, and it seems like it's working.
Yeah,
I didn't say it was
absolutely.
a bad strategy. Sometimes it works.
It's true. And the last time Xbox announced numbers, they announced 18 million Game Pass subscribers, and that's nothing to shake a stick at. And so we'll see what the attach rate is for this game. But what I'm hoping is going to happen, and maybe this is a pipe dream, is that Sony is going to talk to MLB, and obviously they're going to get the install numbers because Sony San Diego has to manage the code of the game. And they're going to see how many people on Xbox are playing the game and how many people on PlayStation are playing the game. And maybe if they see this disparity between the numbers, it will encourage them to foster conversation about, hey, maybe we can look at what else from the Sony Interactive Entertainment portfolio we might want to explore publishing on Xbox. Now, Xbox Game Pass day and date, different story. I think that this is probably a rare deal that we probably won't see again. Maybe we might see it for MLB The Show specifically, but other first-party games, I don't think so, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe Xbox can pony up some money and give it to PlayStation, and PlayStation will go, thank you, here's our game. Doubtful, but you never know.
That's the future I want to live in. Like, I love the fact that I can play Minecraft anywhere, even though Microsoft owns it. Like, that would be wonderful if I can choose the console that I use to play the game that I'm interested in, and the publisher and the developer get a cut of the money. Like, that sounds great. I realize that games sell systems and exclusivity is going to be a thing probably forever, but I'm always a fan of player choice. So, huge fan of this move.
Yeah. And speaking of exclusives, Monster Hunter Rise on Nintendo Switch has shipped 5 million units worldwide. Congratulations to Capcom. I've seen a lot of people on my feed posting their screenshots of their gear and their crew and Monster Hunter, and I just still haven't downloaded the game. I'm interested, but I don't know if I want to succumb to Monster Hunter Rise the way that I did with Monster Hunter World. I don't know.
Sure.
It's like a commitment.
It is. I just don't know if I can handle one more big commitment right now. It's too much. Too much going on. But I'm happy for all of the hunters out there that are enjoying their time in Monster Hunter Rise. PlayStation also announced another exclusive today. Kind of like stealth announced this game, actually. So the game is called Abandoned. And it's
you can't make that shit up. That you're like, it's a stealth announce of a game called Abandoned.
I didn't.
The marketing
I
team
didn't
also
plan that.
abandoned
That was
this
my.
game.
Oh no.
That was my bad. So they put out a little cinematic teaser here of footage that was captured on a PS5. It says Abandon is a cinematic first-person horror survival shooter set in a highly detailed open-world environment and favors a realistic approach to survival. So this cinematic that they put out doesn't really show us much other than these kind of like creepy woods shots. And the blog post over at the PlayStation blog gives a little bit more detail, saying that the story is centered around Jason Longfield, who wakes up in a strange forest, abandoned and not remembering how he got there. Jason soon finds out he was kidnapped and brought there for a dark purpose. Fighting for his survival, his main goal is escape. The developer, by the way, is Blue Box Game Studios, which there was an interesting story from Jeff Grubb over at GamesBeat about, because a lot of people can't find any information about this studio. They're kind of like a
Stealth studio?
They're not like a new studio, but apparently they had a game that was in early access on Steam that disappeared and
was abandoned.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I think is really interesting about this Sony blog post, though, is that they're saying that the game in the trailer is coming out in Q4 2021. So less than 9 months from now, hypothetically, if the game doesn't, come out at the end of December, right?
Yeah.
But in the blog post, they're saying they're in early development. And I'm like, that doesn't really match up, that you would have a Q4 2021 launch that you're in early development still. So in the blog post, they say the studio is focused on creating cinematic style first-person story. This is no fast-paced shooter in which you just run, aim, and shoot. Abandon requires you to hide and plan every shot before pulling the trigger. We want you to be nervous, come each and every enemy encounter, to be aware that a wrong move can be the deciding factor between surviving a combat scenario or not. I think a lot of players are going to be interested in a game like that. They're going to be taking advantage of the DualSense wireless controller and 3D audio to emphasize realism through user immersion. So, for example, they write that Players will feel each and every interaction in gameplay, such as being struck by a bullet. Pulling the trigger on a loaded or unloaded gun will feel differently. And 3D audio will help shape your decisions and tactics using accurate positioning of gunshots out in the wilds to help your next move. So I think that all sounds cool. I think more developers using the tech on the PS5 is really exciting, because that was one of the things I think that PlayStation really has above the Xbox Series X is this new tech that, we are seeing in the PS5. But I don't know. This teaser didn't do enough for me. I think it's interesting, but I wanted to see a little bit more. But they say gameplay reveal coming soon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much production is going into the story. Like, what makes this a PT versus a Phasmophobia. So, yeah, I'm curious to know what we get in that gameplay demo and how much narrative there is versus, is this a procedurally generated game? I have a lot of questions.
I have no questions because this is already a nope for me.
It's of course a nope, but I'm still curious.
Tyra's like, this game does not interest me whatsoever. If Brittany was here, I think she would be like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, this is 100% a Brittany game. This does not appeal to my sensibilities. So I don't need this in my life. I don't want to be scared. I'm scared enough as it is.
Steimer and I will be in our no spookies corner and just observe from afar.
We'll hang out. We'll have a drink. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll watch Britt get scared and scream. Her open-eyed scream of terror.
It's still the strangest reaction I've encountered.
I know. Just staring the horror in the face as she screams.
Like,
I don't understand it either. But we love you for
but
it,
I must
Britt.
always I need to make eye contact with you. If I don't make eye contact with you, I don't know. I don't know what she thinks is going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's
Get the drop on her.
It's both brave and like sort of idiotic. I don't really know.
It's true. It's true. Well, hopefully we'll get more details on Abandoned in a State of Play or another blog post. Who knows what Sony's PR strategy is these days? They just drop the news of this just in a random blog post. That's good. I guess everything
They're
can't
like,
be
"You
in the
guys
State of Play, right?
Wait, yeah, it's exactly. What day was this posted? Was this posted today or
Today. It was posted today so that'd be Wednesday, April 7th.
They're like, you get Wednesday, April 7th. That's your day. Enjoy.
Have fun with that.
And I'm sure the developers were like, yes, let's go. Very interesting. All right. That is going to do it for our news for this week. When we come back, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. Stick with us, everybody. We'll see you in a minute. And now it's time for some announcements. So you may have heard me say that our 4-year anniversary stream is happening on Monday, April 12th, beginning at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We're doing it a little bit early this year because the three of us have some overlapping, unavoidable schedule conflicts in the month of May when we normally do our anniversary. So hopefully you guys can join us. We have some big announcements coming. It's going to be a really fun stream. In addition to some big announcements, you guys may have seen this week that some wonderful people in the video games industry put together a t-shirt on my behalf. And I want to say a big thank you. If you want your opportunity to buy the Andrea Strong t-shirt at andreastrong.net, we're going to be showcasing that during the stream and also talking about the charity that I have selected that all of the proceeds are going to go to. So hopefully we'll see you then. Britt and I will also be doing a watch along for the DICE Awards, which are happening on Thursday, April 21st, timing TBD. And if you want to get ahead of the game for our patrons, mark your calendars for Saturday, April 24th for April's Patreon streams. And that's it for the announcements. Welcome back, everybody. It's the second segment of the What's Good Games podcast, where we talk about what we've been playing and any events that we have been to. And this week, it is brought to you by patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. We talk about this on the show a lot. It's the easiest way to support our voices in the video game landscape is to head on over and select the membership tier of your choice. Like maybe you don't like listening to ads, so maybe you want to be an Epic member. Or maybe you want to get some of that sweet, sweet merch that we've been making and you want to join the Divine membership. We've got lots of different options to choose from, so you can check them all out at patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. but to talk about what we've been playing. All three of us have been playing Outriders from People Can Fly and Square Enix. Thank you to Square Enix for providing us with codes to play the game. It has been an interesting week seeing everybody's kind of progression across the game. So I probably feel like I'm behind to where you guys are. I actually, Steimer, don't know how much you've played.
I'm level. I forgot my level, but I've been playing a bit with Jackie. I wouldn't say we're super far, but her and I have duoed together a couple times.
Okay, I think I'm like level 13, 14,
right where I
so a decent amount, but not a lot because there's still like a lot more story to go. You're pretty far, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm level 19, world tier 8 right now. And I actually accidentally saw some mid to late game story because I jumped into a play session with Blessing from Kind of Funny, and he had been mainlining only main quests and had progressed quite a bit further than I have been. I've been, dilly-dallying with side quests and replaying content with folks who are catching up. And, when you do that, you do get more loot according to your level, which is wonderful. But a side effect of that is that I haven't seen much of the story. So I definitely have hopscotched around in the narrative and seen probably more than I should, according to my own playthrough.
Yeah, so I saw some things online about the way that the story progression works when you're playing with friends. That if you play with somebody who is further back in the story, that it resets your story progress. Have you found that?
I haven't I haven't come across that use case yet. So I've only jumped ahead and then gone back to where I am. I haven't gone the other way where I'm further ahead, excuse me, and then play with somebody further behind me. So I don't know. That's a little bit concerning.
Oh, it's interesting. I just decided to Google it because I saw Khalif Adams, of course, friend of the show, tweeting about how he was really upset that his story progress had changed, and another friend of the show, Whiskey Jack, had mentioned it in one of the Discord threads I was looking at as well. And somebody on Reddit's like, you can move your story point in the lobby, so maybe that's it.
Yeah, I think it changes it. So whenever you fire the game up, it says like select story point. So I would imagine what's happening is it's automatically bumping them down because that's where they were, but you can still put it back.
Move it back forward.
Yeah, move it back
Gotcha.
forward. They just probably aren't doing that automatically because there are a few things that the game does like that where it's not super clear what it's doing. The game, in my opinion, doesn't always do the best job of telling you what's going on. A very minor example of that is I fired up the game to play with Jackie and she joined my party. We had a weird issue at first where like the headsets weren't connecting. We couldn't hear each other. So we just started playing. And then we stopped to fix it. And I guess during the time where it was broken, she had told me like, hey, the party's open. But I didn't notice that the party was open to other people and no one joined. We played for like an hour or 2 hours. And then when we were winding down, of course, I turn around and there's some other person there. And I was just like, who's that? What's going on? And she was like, oh, yeah, I said this, but I think the headsets weren't working. You don't have the party set to private. And I was like, what the fuck? So I set the party to private and then I kicked him out of the group. And then whoever it was sent a really nasty message to Jackie and not me because I don't have my DMs open. And I was like, oops, sorry. Like, I didn't mean to have the party open. I just didn't realize that it was. I really wish it would be like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And like,
it should also not default to open. It should default to private, and then you can leave it open if you want it open.
Yeah, I thought that was a little strange, but it was fine. I mean, her and I are having a lot of fun. Again, I'm the Devastator, so I'm really leaning into playing tank, especially with her, because one of us needs to stay alive. She's pure DPS. And what I loved, again, I mentioned it on the show before, but I loved that I was able to respec my skill tree instantly. So I was like, oh, we're having a bit of a hard time because I wasn't fully on the tank skill tree. I was on I had mix and matched or whatever. And then I was like, you know what, to make this a little easier, because we're on world tier 7 or 8 at this point, I went just full tank thing. And then it was much better. I was like, okay, now I'm like healing a bit more and I have more tankiness. This is good. We're good to go here.
I forgot, what class are you playing again?
I'm playing Technomancer, and
Oh yeah, that's right.
at first I considered maybe like trying a couple of classes on my PS5 build versus my Xbox build, but I really just liked Technomancer, so I made two, and that's the only class I've played so far. But I'm really enjoying it. And something that you spoke to, Steimer, I like the fact that you can play around with the way you play your subclass. Is it called a subclass? The way you play your type,
Yeah.
with the skills that you choose. Because at first, I didn't realize I could pick my skills and sort of replace the 3 that I have constantly refreshing. So with Technomancer, you default to a grenade, which I think is called like Scrapnel or something like that, Shrapnel, for a launcher that fires a bunch of missiles at everybody. And then right now, I've actually replaced one of those with a healing ability. So I'm playing a bit more as like an aggressive healer, which is a totally different class makeup from what I usually play. I'm mixing that with a lot of sniping abilities. So I'm focusing on like freezing people in place for my teammates to go after and then healing them from a distance. But then I also sometimes get aggressive and like run into a pile of enemies and then freeze all of them and then hang back and then pick them off. So there's definitely a lot of mixing and matching that I'm having tons of fun with Outriders that I haven't really had with many other games. Maybe Borderlands 2 as the Siren is the only thing I can think of that feels similar, where I'm doing a lot of crowd control, but then also hanging back and managing my party. So I really enjoy the different ways that you can sort of play around with the skills versus your upgrades and your skill tree, because there's tons of ways that it can go.
I have been playing as a pyromancer, and I jumped into a session with friends Lauren and Joey. I streamed with Joey Noel last week and going to be streaming with her again this week. And all 3 of us were pyromancers. And let me tell you, this game is definitely designed to have a mix of classes, because we, weren't fully on the struggle bus, and as a squad of 3, we were doing okay. But I think that, the different classes really shine when they are working in tandem with each other, which I think is really cool. We're watching some footage here on the Technomancer class that Rhea is playing, and I'm interested in,
that's my favorite move is the Devastator. You fly up and you become rocks and you just like launch yourself down at them. It's so fun. It's so fun. Sorry, you only know if you're watching on YouTube. If you are not watching on YouTube, you have no idea what I'm just talking about.
You were just explaining a move that maybe people haven't seen. All of the other, Devastators out there are probably like, I get it, Steimer. I feel you. But what I think is really interesting about this game is that, they have this whole mantra of cover is for cowards. But at the same time, there's so much cover placed in the game that I'm kind of like, how do you say cover is for cowards and then build that much cover into your level design? Like, I don't know. Like,
you definitely need cover, because especially as you go up in world tiers, like they throw so many people at you. Even if you're just going under cover for a minute to have a break and reassess where people are coming from, so you can start to attack again. Like, it's definitely a necessity. So no, it's not for cowards. It's for strategic minds.
See, that's what I'm saying. But they made T-shirts with it on there and everything. They're like, cover is for cowards.
Good. It's like alliteration. People like that. It's a fun marketing thing. But no, even as a full tank, I sometimes need to run and hide. And get a minute to get my health back up. But I do think part of that actually is like the way that they've built a lot of the classes. Really, you don't get that much healing from staying in cover. I think maybe it's more to do with the fact that in a lot of games, if you're behind cover, you fully heal, and here you heal a little bit. But really, you're healing mainly, it depends on your class, but a lot of it comes from being aggressive. So if you're not being aggressive, you're not going to be at full health. So I feel like that's probably more of what it's trying to allude to. But
Yeah, agreed. There's lots of ways that you can heal, but most of them do lend themselves to doing damage for the trade-off of heals, like different mods you can put on your weapons or different skills that you unlock in your tree that let some of your abilities give you healing or give your team healing. And it definitely encourages aggressive play, but you're both absolutely right. You have to take cover at some point, if only to reload. And it's definitely frustrating because any enemy gunfire or grenade splatter will knock you out of cover, which has been quite irritating, especially when you think you're safe, you hear a little thing land next to you, and you're like, oh, I should be out of its radius, and you're busy reloading, you're checking your stats, making sure your skills are almost ready to use again, and like, oh no, I'm out of cover and everyone's shooting me. Great. But it makes for fun gameplay. It's a fun challenge.
Yeah, 100% the gameplay is super fun. I've been really enjoying my time with it. I, of course, love the looter shooter genre overall, and the idea of, like, you know, picking up items all the time and constantly going through loot is something that I am well versed in from my days of Destiny. So I think, you know, what they're doing is really interesting. I think, you know, kind of where I think Outriders maybe falls flat just a little bit is that it does feel a little formulaic and a little samey, and that the AI design so far has been nothing that's really blown me away. But I don't know if that's because I haven't gotten further into the story and seen some of the higher level stuff. Have you gotten into any boss fights, Ree, that you were really impressed by?
I mean, without giving too much spoilers, like there's a volcano fight that was pretty interesting, definitely
Yeah, that was
different.
fun.
Yeah,
I
not
did that.
samey, but most of them have been, a bigger version of the other people that you're fighting, the other creatures that you're fighting, and that has been not as exciting. I'm hoping maybe as we get into later stages in the game, like for instance, what I accidentally fast forwarded to playing with Blessing, or even like late game and the end story, like maybe they get a little bit more varied in the boss AI and different rage modes. But so far there's only really been that one that has stood out to me, and the rest have been just sort of larger versions of the enemy you're fighting in each wave.
Yeah, I have played that volcano fight. It was one of the last things that I did. And it was really, that was actually like a pretty cool boss fight. And I guess like for me, it's just about like, where does the game go from here? I think something that a lot of people are forgetting about this game is that this is not a live service game. People Can Fly have been very clear that when you're done with the game, you're done with the game. You can go back and keep grinding and play a new class and go back and experience it, but there's not going to be like additional story content. Now, they've left the door open for potential DLC, and I know a lot of people are hoping for some raid-like content in the future, but I think People Can Fly were really just concerned with putting out a completed, polished game that people loved to play. Now, they obviously had some launch weekend woes like almost every multiplayer server-based game goes through. Lots of people in my feed complaining about servers being down, and I get the frustration. It happened to me many times that opening weekend. But it seems like the team at People Can Fly have been working around the clock to get their servers stable and back online. And hopefully, if the game does really well, and it sounds like it has so far, that they'll be able to invest some more in doing more content for the game. So
yeah, I personally would love to see that. I know we've had our Destiny days, and I bounce kind of hard off of games that are too big and there's too much minutia in the min-maxing, and I have to find like I'm thinking of The Division. I have to find like a specific attachment for a specific upgrade for a specific skill that goes to this class, but then only if you have this mod on your armor, and it's just so much synergy that I have to keep track of. I'm like, this starts to feel like work. But what I like about Outriders is that, yes, they have mods, yes, they have rarity, and there's skill trees, and there's different upgrades you can put on your character class, but it's manageable, and the loot drop frequency feels really good to me. There's always 1 or 2 loot chests after every firefight encounter, and they usually have something that's a little bit better than one of the guns or gear that I'm currently running with. Like the payoff definitely feels fair. and not super grindy or punishing if I'm replaying content, which is really important when you can drop in and drop out of other players' games and play with your friends so easily. So even though this is not a live service game, this is one that I can see myself spending a lot of time in as my friends catch on and catch up, because each time I jump into like a 10, 15 minute, 2 hour long session, every time I find value. And I really appreciate that they respect my time as a player, because it's so precious these days.
That's a good point. I mean, I think a lot of people are looking for those more bite-sized experiences and not having to invest thousands of hours into a game in order to stay, current on it. That's one of my biggest complaints about Destiny, and that Bungie is thankfully addressing, is that it feels like every time there's new content, I feel like I'm perpetually behind and it's impossible to catch up unless I'm playing Destiny every single week. And I ain't got time to play Destiny every week anymore, Like I got other stuff I got to try out. And so I think like having a shorter, more manageable experience is something that players are actually kind of into.
I mean, I'm into it. Hell yeah. Give me something that I can beat. For God's sake. Especially a game like this where it sort of feels like it could be a Destiny or whatever. This could have been a live service game, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And instead they made the other choice. So like, and I love that actually. I mean, who knows if maybe they would have made more money the other way, but I don't really think so. I think this is definitely one of those games where it'll be a strong single player game. It's really fun to play. The combat's really fun. They've designed a lot of elements that are really user friendly. And just in a way it kind of feels like, because they didn't have to worry about it as a games of service, they were a little more free with their design on certain things, and that's great that they're like, we don't necessarily need to manage all of these economic sinks and whatever, because like you can just have fun. Just go play the game and have fun, everybody, with your friends. Enjoy.
Absolutely. And I'm surprisingly like loving the writing. At first I was skipping a lot of cutscenes just because I had seen a lot of them over and over again from replaying content. But as I like walk in on like again, not giving spoilers, but checking in on Monique or things like that kind of caught me off guard with like the humor. I'm finding myself getting more and more into the story as I go along, which is a delightful surprise. And there are some nitpicks that I have with the game. Like the travel system is a little bit confusing. As we said before, it doesn't do a great job of communicating what's happening when you're loading into stuff. The cutscenes to jump from one platform to another are hilarious and probably unnecessary. But I am having a great time, and I can definitely identify with what you said, Steimer. Like I like the fact that I can beat it and be done with it, and then maybe look for the sequel. Not everything has to be a game as a service.
The jumping thing that you just mentioned, because I just saw it on the video that's being played as well. That's so funny to me, especially because, again, as a Devastator, one of my moves is like yeeting myself across the battlefield, but yet I can't make like 5-foot jump
without. Because they're hiding a loading screen.
I know why. I'm aware of the technical reason, but it's hilarious to think about in context of the world. Because to be like, oh wow, I'm this super powerful altered, but man, I just don't know how to get across this jump. I just can't do it. I have to get a quest first. Someone needs to tell me to jump across this mini chasm before I'm allowed to do it.
I understand the humor in that, and like the kind of like silly irony of like, hey, I'm super powerful. It's like how a lot of games you're like a badass protagonist, but you like can't swim.
Oh my god.
Thwarted by the water. Can't get over it. Don't know what it does.
You like instantly touch the water and you're dead.
Yeah.
Anaphylactic shock immediately.
It's like you are a super powerful outrider, altered outrider, but the platforms do you in. You can't jump across them.
Can't jump across them unless you're told to jump across them.
Yeah, exactly. But I think this game has a lot of great potential. I've really enjoyed it every time that I played it in demo events, and I'm really happy to see that people are enjoying it now. I think it's got a really nice like loot grind. I think the crafting system seems approachable. I think that they've done a good job of making some really cool, unique, high-end loot items that are worth chasing, allowing you to grind and replay missions. I think is something every game should do. Like, let me go back and replay missions if I want to. Being able to jump around in the story for the menu system is a great add. And the fact that it's free if you have an Xbox Game Pass subscription is bonkers. Like, you can just play
Xbox
this game
is
for
here
$10.
to just take your business. Please
Just
come
doing
over.
It worked. It got me to play a second character. It's the same class, but hey,
And
there.
so
I love
far,
that you didn't try another class.
yeah, just started another
did it.
technomancer on a
You're
different
just like,
platform.
No.
It's so good when you freeze people with your turret. Like, I just can't stop. It's so satisfying.
It feels like of our friends, there's one class that's not yet represented. It's the one I played during the demo that
The
I'm
Trickster.
already forgetting the name of. The Trickster. Yeah. It feels like that's the unloved child right now. But it
Yeah,
was
I was
really fun
thinking
to play
about
during
doing
the
a
demo.
survey on Twitter
Yeah.
to see who's playing what classes.
I'd be
And
interested.
seeing kind of what the breakdown is.
Hmm.
Because I don't know anybody that's playing Trickster right now.
Which makes me sad because I had a really great time with it. I just went tank because I felt like a lot of my friends were going to go DPS, and I felt like a tank would be more useful than another DPS. So it feels like the Pyromancer is just the more favored of those two classes. So like either you're going to want to be a support, which is what Ree's doing, or you're going to want to, just basically like fulfill a different role.
Yeah.
So poor little Trickster.
Oh.
Well, maybe there's just a bunch of hidden tricksters out there and we just don't know.
Maybe.
Show yourself,
was it.
tricksters. Show yourselves. I'm sure somebody listening to the podcast is like, I'm a trickster. It's great.
Good.
It's the best class.
I'm sure. No, again, it was really fun. I just was I was going for more utility.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest and say that I have been having second thoughts about my Fire Mage Pyromancer.
Oh.
Why?
Well, the class is really fun, but it's also really limiting in the sense that if you're not playing with a full crew, it can be really challenging because the healing mechanic requires you to kill people. And so if you get really low on health, which you do as a pyromancer, the only way to heal is to get out there and keep killing people, which ultimately means you die a lot. And you got to be really thoughtful about how you're using your abilities. And I'm getting better about combining my abilities and reading the stats about how the different abilities work together. And obviously that just takes time to learn in the RPG system, but it just feels also like a little frustrating. I have dropped the world tier down, even though I was trying to ride the automatic leveling of the world tier. I just kind of hit a point in the story where I just kept dying a lot, and I was like, this isn't fun anymore. But I want the good loot. Oh, I'm conflicted.
That is tough. It definitely pays to play with friends. I know a lot of folks come to single player games or games that aren't live services to get away from other folks. And I totally get that if you need that separation. But every time I've played with friends, it's been easier, and not only easier, but more fun and more interesting. Like you were saying, Andrea, like just seeing the way the different classes and skills work in tandem, in the way that you can support one another. Like Steimer coming to Jackie's aid. Like it's more gamey to me, and it's more entertaining for sure, versus playing solo. Definitely just feels like challenge mode the whole time.
Yeah, it's got to be really hard to play this by yourself, especially if you've chosen like just a purely DPS class. Because again, like this game was clearly designed with parties in mind, and especially when you have different utilitarian classes, like you're expected to party up and like diversify the group in order to really make things easier and have a really good time with it. So, if you are playing purely DPS, like God love you. I mean, that's a grind. That's got to be difficult. especially if you're continuing to level up. But Andrea, I'm here for you, and we're actually roughly at the same part of the story. So
Yes.
honestly, like if I had you and Jackie being full DPS and then me being tank probably would be enough, because she kills things at an astonishingly quick rate. Like, so I basically just have to stay alive and run around and like yeet myself at people
keep her
and
alive.
put my golem armor on and like just make sure they're distracted, and then she just like murders everybody. It's great.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's roll. I had a blast. We didn't get to play a lot together, Ree, but we gotta go back and play, because I think we played in the demo, right? We haven't actually played in the full game yet.
I think so, but I'm the same tech, so same technomancer.
And the crossplay has been pretty okay now that we're a couple days beyond launch. Like, obviously it was pretty rough chuckles for everybody on launch, particularly PC and console crossplay. They had to take it offline for a little while and do a bunch of fixes, but it seems like it's kind of leveling out now. But I love the room code system. I think that's so much easier than trying to use like your Square Enix ID and making friends like on the website and then having to do a separate friend invite, because we obviously deal with that with Call of Duty when we play zombies.
Yes.
That system is frustrating, but not having an in-game voice chat is kind of a bummer, but as we know, very few companies have been able to successfully pull that off.
Yeah, I found that that's worked maybe like 1 out of 5 times I've tried. But more and more, just Discord. We'll just jump into Discord while we're playing. That's sort of like the default solution for every game these days.
Exactly. Good old Discord. Maybe being bought by Microsoft, maybe not. Who knows? I think it would be cool. That's all I'm going to say about that. So we obviously focused on Outriders. I wanted to give you guys a quick update on my Cozy Grove experience since the game launched this week. And it is fully reviewable now. I have not played enough of the game to give it like a final thoughts. I think this is one of those ongoing games that, it's going to take me a while to have final thoughts. But having played a bit more of it now, I feel like I'm in that position. Now, before I go on, Reed, do you know about Cozy Grove?
Roughly, like very small sketch outline. So please give me the detailed version.
Sure. So like the kind of elevator pitch on Cozy Grove is that it is a simulation game similar to Animal Crossing where you land on this island. The island is haunted, and I use air quotes because it's more like cutesy spooky than like actually spooky. And there's all of these ghosts that are like former residents around the island that you need to like kind of bring back and kind of bring color back into the Cozy Grove Island. And they're all different kinds of bears, which is cute. And there's like all these like spooky elements like imps and things. And you have a set amount of tasks per day to do. And you have like a tent, and there's a crafting element and a collecting element. There's even like a museum type collections that you do with one of the island residents. And so far it's been a really fun way for me to kind of like decompress, very similar to how Animal Crossing was, but also very similar to my opening Animal Crossing weeks. I've run into a time where I get frustrated that I can't complete my tasks that I'm given, that they're like, you're just going to have to hold on to this thing and you might need it someday. And I'm like, but I have a very limited inventory and there's only so many tasks I can do to earn coins. And I have to get so many more coins to open up my inventory slots. And now I'm just dropping stuff on the ground like I did in the beginning of Animal Crossing, where I just leave all my mats outside my house. Where it's just like piles of sticks and stone and like clay and everything just piling up outside my house. And now there's like bagels and potatoes and mixed greens just like on the ground in my campsite. Just like, I hate this.
Sounds safe. Sounds like it would do great out there.
I know, but I'm now at that point where I actually didn't check in on my island yesterday because there was this one quest that I need to do, and I have to make this crafting recipe because I unlocked the Baker Bear character who's really cute. And this recipe requires me to get 12 eggs to create one boiled egg. And I can only buy one egg.
That's not how math works.
It's not how math works. You are correct.
Wait.
And I can only buy one from the shop every day. And then the rest I have to get from like these little birds that I have to feed and pet every day. But they want a different thing to eat. And sometimes they want a recipe that I don't have the materials to make. And then they don't give me an egg. And now I'm like, how long is it going to take me to get these 12 freaking eggs to make this one part of what this character needs? I'm frustrated now that I'm like, the game is artificially blocking me. And it's not giving me the same satisfaction that I had from Animal Crossing, because there's so much more to do in Animal Crossing New Horizons than there is to do in Cozy Grove. Because as Brittany and I discussed on the show last week, the thing that's really frustrating for me about the decorative element is that there are decorations, and I like how the decorations are more thoughtfully used in gameplay. For example, you plant a tree, like a pear tree, let's say, and that pear tree will produce more fruit if you put certain types of decor around it. And one of the mechanics of the island is that if you use a lamp on the edge of these lit areas, it'll expand where like the color has filled in on the island, but you can only expand it a little bit. And so now my island is just full of like these randomly scattered lamps, and I have like a chair just out in the middle of a field because it's next to a berry bush that likes cozy decor, and this other tree likes rustic decor, so I have like a log like bench next to it, and it's just chaotic on my island, and it's not cute anymore. And now it's like, it just looks like a hodgepodge flea market of stuff just randomly on the ground. And that part is really getting to me, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to take it.
Yeah, that seems frustrating. You have some pretty severe design limitations to work within. It's not, doesn't sound ideal compared to what you can do with Animal Crossing, which is just so vast and so customizable.
And I don't want to compare them apples to apples, because it's not fair to Spry Fox, because what Spry Fox has made is a really adorable little game, and they're on like a small indie team, and it's just like putting them up against Nintendo's internal AC team is just not fair to them at all. And I think what they've done is great. Also, shout out to Steimer's Animal Crossing shirt, by the way, in case anybody didn't notice it, with the Golden Girls. Thank you for being a friend. But so that's kind of where I'm at with Cozy Grove. I'm hoping that some things unlock, but I feel now like I've hit that wall that I hit in those first like 8 days of Animal Crossing before my wealthy
your 1
benefactor,
million bell.
one Susu Dip, came in and bequeathed me with a loan of bells that unlocked some of those gates that I was being stuck behind in my early Animal Crossing days. But there's no way to do that in Cozy Grove, because the game
You need an egg benefactor.
I know. who
drops
can
some
come
on
in and give me eggs? But there's no multiplayer component to the game. And so it's like, I'm just stuck on this island waiting for these eggs to drop.
That pay to play mechanic, just like, can I give you $5 for 12 eggs, please?
Yes, like never have I wanted microtransactions in a game before, but like, please just let me buy the things I need. Oh,
I still want to know what they're doing with those eggs that it takes 12 to make one boiled.
I don't understand it either.
What's happening here?
Like, I think it's just an arbitrary number. Like, it takes 10 mixed greens to make one fancy greens. And then it takes X amount of fancy greens to make whatever the next layer up. But like, the way the cooking system works is that you don't get it immediately. She sends it through the mail and you get it the next day, which also drives me a little crazy.
That's gross.
Oh no.
That's not how I cook. I want to cook through the mail.
Right? I look it up on the Googles, and
if I give you like 10 fruit jams and 1 toasted nut flour, I want my tart that day, okay?
Where is the instant delivery here? Come on.
2-hour window.
Yeah, exactly. So those are kind of some of my updated thoughts. I'm gonna keep playing to see how it goes, but I'm getting a little frustrated with the game. So
okay,
my patience, I'm just too ADD for this game potentially. It's got too much going on. Like, I need to have completion in order to have peace, and you're leaving me with things uncompleted, and that bothers me.
I think
And
what
then
would
you have to
bother me
sleep on
more is the random stuff beside like different trees. Like I would be like, you know what? This fruit tree is just gonna be a little bit less optimal. That's fine. I don't want this ugly ass bench next to this tree.
You know, sometimes you just gotta roll that way.
Aesthetics greater than function.
It's becoming a problem. Like it's like a hobo island on my island right now. Just like
Kind of want to
stuff
see it
everywhere.
now. Would you play it on stream?
Yeah, I will. Now that I've played it a bit more, I'll play it on stream so people can see what I'm talking about, because it was under embargo last week when we talked about it on the show. But now that the game is officially out, when the podcast releases, you'll be able to download the game for yourself. I can show you guys on stream what my island looks like. So, and then you can let me know what you
Hobo
think.
Island.
All right. Well, any parting thoughts on anything else that you're playing, or has it just been Outriders?
For me, it's been mostly Outriders. Of course, always Apex, because always Apex. I also dipped back into Stardew as my before bed game. It's just nice, just run a couple of days and then fall asleep. No new updates there. I got the board game. Haven't played it through yet. It's very
that's
complicated.
exciting.
Yes.
Wait,
It's
so it
very
has like a
exciting.
lot of instructions or something?
A lot of instructions, a lot of pieces, and it's gonna take like a day, like a full day to really figure it out. So I haven't quite done that yet, but I did unpack all of it on stream a couple of weeks ago, and
Nice.
I don't know, maybe there'll be a holiday sometime in the future where I'll try to convince my family to play it with me. But
Steimer
yeah,
and I
that-
will play.
pretty much it.
We've all got our first
Yeah.
vaccine shots. Very exciting. But once we're fully vaccinated,
Yeah.
I've got an outside here. You can bring it
I've
all
got it
over.
outside here.
All right,
I've got
I'm good.
a large enough table outside, is what I should say,
Yeah.
that can
Yeah, it does
accommodate all of the
require-
game board and the game pieces while still being
Yeah.
outdoors.
Definitely
so-
requires a lot of table space, more than your average board game for sure.
Well, as long as
Like,
it's
more-
not
more
like
like
Twilight
Risk.
Imperium levels of game pieces, we're good to go. And if you don't know that reference, look it up. It's probably the most complicated board game of all time.
Hopefully it's not that bad.
It takes like 8 hours to play and like 4 hours just to understand how to play. So give yourself a good 12-hour window the first time you play.
Jeez Louise.
Unlike our Mass Effect Risk experience, which you
Oh, yeah,
should
no, that
just
was-
not play.
Fun and fast.
Was it fast? It was like 4 hours.
It was still a really long time.
It's true. And maybe it just flew by because I was laughing the whole time.
Yeah. It was a trip.
Yes. I hate losing.
My
Haven't made that
Logitech
clear.
headphones are very angry and are flashing red. So I think
Oh
they're
no,
about
I
to
think that
die.
means that your battery is low.
Yeah,
no.
they're gonna die on me.
Well,
here.
good news. We are wrapping up the show. That is going to do it for this week's episode of What's Good Games. Hopefully, we'll see you guys at the anniversary stream on Monday. Ree is wearing that awesome Andrea Strong shirt that you guys will be able to see on the stream. And of course, we'll be talking about the charity that those shirts benefit as well. And it's all happening at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And until then, enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.